Hey, and welcome back to the next episode of the Right Hand Drive Guys podcast. I'm your host, Bobby. This is your host, Aaron.
Yo.
And this is episode 108. We appreciate you being here along with us. So, as most people know, right, GTR Festival was a few weekends ago.
Yeah, if you're into Skylines, you probably heard about that.
Yeah, for sure. And so, the GTR Festival originates in Australia. It's a cool group of guys that have been putting it on for a while now.
Yeah.
As these have become legal over here, and then especially the 34s, it made the most sense for them to come on over. And where better to do it than the great state of Texas?
Yeah, it's about as American as you can get,
Yeah,
right?
it really is. Yeah. And so, the Aussies came over and they held their event, and we were invited, but we couldn't make it. Wah, wah.
Yeah.
And so we're like, talking. I was talking to our friend Ryan Zumallen, the Cult of GTR guy.
Yeah.
And he's like, dude, why don't I just come on and tell you guys how it was? And I'm
Yeah.
like, actually, that would be really cool.
That would be sick. Yeah, come on.
Yeah, so great idea, Ryan. We
Yeah.
appreciate it. And episode 108, a little overview of the GTR Festival with Ryan Zumallen.
Can't wait to hear it.
All right, and we're back again with Ryan Zumallen. What's up, man?
Not much, man. It's good to be back. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And, as we already have mentioned, when you volunteered to, come on and do this, I'm like, dude, this is like heaven sent, because we were really kind of bummed we couldn't make it.
Oh, yeah.
Of course,
Super bummed.
what pretty much Nissan head wouldn't be disappointed. And so when you volunteered, it was like, yeah, dude, we got to have him on. So GTR Festival. What did you anticipate before going?
I anticipated a lot of noise and a lot of big power and a lot of big single turbo builds, and then beyond that, I was kind of just open to whatever was going to come. I think the Australians bring such a unique flavor to the GTR community that I thought it would kind of be like a celebration of their perspective on things, or a tribute to what they've done with their 25 years plus.
Like a crossover almost.
Exactly. And then the Americans would bring their stuff, and maybe there'd be some crossover. But I expected it to be pretty loud and brash and Aussie inspired, and it was that. But it was also. I didn't really realize it until I got there, but it really was like the first real U.S. opportunity for people all over the country to come together and be together for U.S. culture. So as much as it was Australian inspired, it was also in a lot of ways like the very first real U.S. nationwide gathering of GTR enthusiasts too.
Right, like on that scale pretty much. Like, because they do have at Willow Springs Ours Day, but it's very intimate. It's not so much open to the public. There's not much spectating. It's like circuit pretty much. So, right, I agree. It was the first opportunity for enthusiasts, period, to kind of participate in probably their dreams, so to speak. So, all right, so for those that are listening that don't know, like GTR Festival is pretty much like what an Aussie created event for GTRs that is, would you say, mostly drag based?
Yeah, I would. It's organized primarily, and GTR Festival has been going on in Australia for, I believe, over 10 years now.
Wow.
And it's organized by Motive Video, which is a really popular YouTube channel and media company.
Oh, yeah.
As well as Platinum Racing Products, or PRP, as it's more commonly known, and they do some big power parts and custom performance work. So it's really those two Australian brands coming together to throw this festival in Australia every year. This was basically that exact same formula brought all the way across the Pacific to the middle of Texas. So it's a really unique situation. And they did want to impart some Australian flavor into this for sure. They wanted to lead with that.
I wonder if Texas is like, sorry, I had to say it. I wonder if Texas is kind of like Australia in the sense of their topography. You know, like how everything is there, how it's more dry, it's more dirt. I wonder if at some points they felt like they were at home. Is that why they chose Texas? I wonder.
I think I think you're onto something. First of all, I think big open spaces, right?
Yeah.
Kind
Yeah.
of a lot of freedom to do whatever you
Like
want. to a certain
tumbleweeds
extent.
and stuff.
Right, exactly. But I think they chose it because the Texas Motorplex is just really well suited for what they like to do, which is drag race and then have enough space to accommodate a festival, really, where it's like not everyone is participating in the drag racing. There's also a show, and they had a drifting exhibition, and a lot of vendors. So it had the space and it had the type of facilities that they were looking for. And it's also, I mean, I think crucially, I think the Australians see Texas as kind of the inroad for them to enter the US market. So PRP is in the process of setting up a satellite office just outside of Dallas right now. Our tech is doing the same thing. So they are really looking at that, really the surrounding Dallas area specifically, as their like tip of the spear to be able to get into the US market. So it really worked on a lot of different levels. And also Texas Motorplex also every year in March hosts TX2K, which is
they do.
giant drag racing competition that usually boils down to GTR versus Lamborghini. So they already had experience with these type of cars and this type of event. So they kind of just slotted right in there.
Wow, yeah, that's actually pretty cool. Was there any live music?
Live, no.
Okay.
But there was
like
they were pumping it all weekend. Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. I was just curious.
That seems like the next step. Although T-Pain was there, so next year they got to get him up on stage.
Yeah, for sure.
That dude's popping up everywhere.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny.
He definitely has inserted himself into the culture, which I think he fits in well, so I don't even think it's like a big deal. It wouldn't be like some of these other guys that maybe would try to insert themselves into the culture and just be completely awkward. He's like with it. So that is pretty cool.
For sure. And I think to your point, he's having fun with it, clearly. Like he was having a great time posing for pictures and getting in the middle of the drag races and like standing right at the start line. So it was cool. He was down to be like very, very visible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the important part is like when people get into this, like as long as they're there to like have fun and celebrate what's already been built and be a part of it. That's what's important.
Yeah. I think he has an R34 that's Bayside blue with Spam livery on it.
Wow.
Yeah, it was there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it was? Nice. That's
Dude,
pretty
it's
legit.
Sick. Kurt hooked him up on that one.
Yeah. He obviously has a good sense of humor as well, which always goes a long way.
Oh, yeah.
So hit us up with a few, tell us what it's like walking through there. Like, what's the vibe? What are some of the cars that you were just like, oh, my gosh?
Yeah, well, first of all, just pulling into the lot, basically everyone who's come to drag race is just unloading their trailers right in the parking lot. And so you kind of roll through the gates, and then immediately there's just a sea of Skyline GTRs everywhere. And, you guys have been around these cars a lot. I've been around these cars a lot. I've been in that big Japan warehouse that's housing tons and tons of R34s. But still to see them all out in the wild together, and they weren't being stored. They were there in some cases to actually race, and in other cases they're personally owned and people drove them there. Like they're just like here existing in the US now, which is still kind of like a thing you have to get used to. It still feels a little bit strange.
Yeah, I was about to ask, with that being said, is that the first time you've seen a gathering of GTRs like that in the States?
In the US, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. And 34s especially. So you start rolling through the parking lot and it's just 34, 34, 34, 34. Like, the big race spoiler and the dual taillights, like almost as far as you can see. It takes some getting used to.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, It reminds me, right, of ours meeting where they're all actually out in the wild. They're actually being used. You can actually meet the owner. Yeah, I think that that's really great for the community because it really involves everyone. You know, they're, like you said, T-Pain's out taking pictures, doing whatever, and then all these other owners are also there. It's a really good social thing for the community, I think.
Totally agree. And the thing that I really liked is that you had both ends of the spectrum. So you had really rare collectible or one-off cars like the Gretty S-Rock, like the original one from the 90s, and the new Built by Legends cars where there was a couple of them. And then some really special builds from Australia. So we had these like really, exclusive, high-profile cars that were there. And then you had guys who just drove their R32 in from North Dakota or Missouri or Utah. And it's like, they were just there to be part of it. And, they're as much a part of this scene as the high profile ones, but they're coming from these kind of remote parts of the US that are starting to build up their own skyline communities. And so you put all that together in the same space. And it's like, it was just as much fun for me to walk around and meet guys from Oklahoma who are like, yeah, it's me and one other skyline owner in the whole state. Like, it was just as much fun for me to hear those stories as it was to hear about like the 3,000 horsepower build from Australia or whatever. So you just really got a full spectrum.
Yeah, I could only imagine. So what are a few of your top ones? Like what are the cars that you found yourself coming back to? That's always how I know. If I like wake up and I'm all of a sudden standing in front of this car for the fourth time, I know that this is one I like. You know what I mean? Did you have a few of those?
Yeah, there's definitely a couple. The one that won Best in Show was pretty incredible. It was a garage active wide body R33.
Oh yeah.
And not the one that he just showed at SEMA. He just debuted the carbon fiber red fading to black R33 at SEMA, but this was a white, it's not carbon fiber, fiberglass R33 build that was really, really impeccable. And that was definitely one of the standouts. That was super cool.
Wow.
Oh God, there were so many. So many came from Florida. Yeah, and Florida has such a unique history with Skylines and GTRs.
Yeah, they do.
But there were some really, really, good, great looking builds that were very clearly curated with love and like put together with like appreciation. So they had a Mines carbon lip spoiler or like, really, really rare parts that stood out. But then there's a shop out here in LA called Original Auto that helped build an R34 that was setting really fast times on the drag strip. And that thing was really cool. It had kind of like a Joker motif from Batman.
Oh, sick.
And like side exhaust pipes sticking out from just ahead of the front tires. So super unique and totally different and fast as hell. So those were definitely some standouts. And I'm forgetting a ton right now.
Oh, of course. But, I mean, you could probably go on all day if you had the opportunity, right? I mean, I'm sure it was almost overload.
Yeah, in the interest of time, let's call those my favorites.
And so one thing I noticed, though, right, like at least I feel like, is at ours meeting, the cars are, of course, there's like a Z-Tune and there's the Built by Legends cars are there. Of course, there's those, but like it feels like Japanese Skylines are more drivers. Like they're not putting necessarily all of the shiny parts on it. Like I feel like I see more of Americans dropping a lot of dough into the looks of their car. Whereas I feel like Japanese people maybe put more money into the balance of the car. Yeah. So I wish that we could have made it because it's the first one and everybody knows the first one is always the best one, right? It's completely natural, organic. Everyone's excited. Like it's the first time everyone's gotten together, not to say that the second or third year isn't as awesome, but I feel like the first year of almost everything is just so organic that it's like you don't want to miss it. And so, yeah, we were pretty bummed to say the least.
Yeah.
I hear you, and you were definitely missed. And if you guys can make it out next year, I think that'll be really great. But yeah, I agree with you. I think a lot of Americans for sure are finally getting their baby here, and they want to build it the way they've always dreamed and really take care of it. And they have obviously waited for so long and frankly spent so much money to get it here. They want to take care of it. And, who knows, if they want to sell it down the line, they want to make sure it's in good condition. That's not to say that's everyone. Like, there's definitely a lot of people who are driving these things real hard and building them to do that. So, but I think that is what's setting the U.S. market apart, at least for right now, is like the Australians have gone through their fun with them. Their big thing is big power. The Japanese, it's all balance and precision. And with us, at least for right now, it's like the really cared for, curated collector cars for sure.
Yeah, that's a good way to break it down, I think.
Yeah, I mean, but the price they're pulling, they should be, taken care of.
Yeah.
Some of these Skylines, even for, a GTT.
Yeah.
Those are, getting up to 50, 60K. It's kind of crazy. So the type of person that is going to spend that money on it probably has the money to take care of it and do it right.
Right. Yeah. I mean, obviously, it's not like, for sure. And it's not to say that I think the Japanese, like kind of like what Ryan was saying, have, and the Australians, they've had these things for 25, 30 years already. Like Australian 15 years.
Right.
Like, this is old news, right? And like Ryan said, we've been sitting here twiddling our thumbs just waiting. And so when it finally comes over, it's hard to justify, as you're saying, not completely taking care of it, right? Like, you'd kind of be a fool. You waited like 25 years just to leave it out in the rain, so to speak. So, yeah, I agree. That's a good breakdown.
This is a natural progression of where the market has gone. Like, with them coming into the U.S., it's shot up the prices of GTRs all over the world. Just because the demand now is going to be so strong to bring them here. Your car, you might get a huge offer from someone in America who wants to bring it in. So even if you keep it in your country, the price just went up. So now you might be sitting on something that you didn't expect to be extremely valuable, but all of a sudden it is. And it's interesting because it's also the car legalizing in the U.S. is also creating like a second life of innovation for them, because everyone is seeing these kind of big money collectors wanting them and wanting to take care of them. It's creating a market where brands like PRP or Greddy or ATS are looking and going, okay, the spending power of our customers just went up. So we better produce new parts or try to innovate, add new technology, add new materials to serve those customers. So all these brands now, for a 30, 35-year-old car in some cases, are coming out with parts that are really pushing the boundaries and continuing to like increase the performance capabilities to these cars, kind of all at once. And I think that has a lot to do with them, the organizers, bringing this show to the U.S. Like, they recognize the spending power that's here, and it just makes sense. So we're kind of seeing like
a reemergence, almost like a reemergence of it. Yeah, that is that's true, right? Like, it had a wave, the wave died down, and now the wave is like, obviously because of our country and the way that we spend. Now the wave's like huge, and companies that had the foresight, like HKS, Greddy, PRP, even new companies like Built by Legends and these other people, they're on the surfboards on top of the wave right now. And I don't think that you could jump into the water right now and get on top of that wave like they are. So, yeah, major props to those companies for having the foresight to actually stick with it, and not just discontinue some of this stuff.
Yeah, and continuing to innovate. Like, PRP, aren't they starting to make billet blocks for like the RBs? Like
I think it's out now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is
Huge.
that's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, like that's something that's kind of unavailable. Like, and it's been available for other platforms like the Supers and whatnot for years.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty cool to see.
The innovation, right? That is huge because otherwise we're still just putting, whatever regular ball bearing turbos on our cars and dealing with all the same issues they were 20 years ago,
Right.
And there's another company rather. I don't know if you guys have heard of SR Works out of Texas, but they've got a new performance line of parts called Bodan, and they're starting to build their own aluminum billet block as well.
Way.
That's cool.
Plus, it'll be an RB with a dry sump and with dual VVT as well.
What?
Dang.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and that's what
they're really interesting. It's a Texas company, but obviously using inspiration from Japanese like precision for the dual VVT, and then the billet obviously is inspiration from Australia. So it's like it really is a combination of all the different influences.
Yeah, really so cool. It's exciting to see. Now with 3 countries, so to speak, really putting in their brain power into this car, give it 2 to 3 more years, see what's available for it, because it's probably going to be pretty awesome.
It'll be interesting for sure.
So for vendors, right, like we all know, like, most of us listening have been to events, right? Like you've been to events, I've been to events. Of course, Ryan's been to a ton of events. There's always vendors, and it's always like all car guys do the vendor row walk, right? Like you got to check out what the vendors got. Do they got anything exclusive? Are they dropping any new parts? Like, it's one of the, after the cars, it's like one of the most exciting parts, right?
Yeah.
And then
get some free stickers.
Yeah, maybe the opportunity to meet the owner or the mechanic or whatever, right? So in your experience at GTR Festival USA, how was vendor row?
Heavy hitters for sure. And this was the main ones were kind of centered around the high priced cars. So they kind of formed a little semicircle around the Built by Legends cars. But yeah, in addition to the ones that we mentioned, there was also Artec, the Australian brand, Haltech with the ECUs and different electronics. And then obviously Greddy, HKS, Top Rank was there with the Built by Legends cars, and obviously they're the famous importers bringing the cars into California mostly. Again, lots of importers from Florida, and what else? Other than that, a lot of importers, a lot of like clubs and racing teams. I'm sure they'll continue to expand vendor row. Like I'm sure next year there will be a lot of brands that will want to be clamoring to be getting in.
Yo, I can only imagine.
Yeah, I think for this one, they wanted the big names, and I think they got them.
You got to get established, right? And those names bring clout. Clout brings exposure. If you're putting on an event and you don't care about exposure, it's not going to last. So I get it. I mean, there'll be plenty more years for the little guys. So a lot of importers, huh? I'm kind of surprised, kind of, but not, you know what I mean? But it's interesting that a lot of them, they must have brought cars to show off and try to attract clients. Yeah. That's cool.
There were some good ones, I think Rav Performance out of Florida is doing some really, really cool builds right now. And I don't think they import, but they work with a couple of pretty prominent groups in the South Florida area specifically. And they had a lot of cars that were all really, really impressive. And yeah, who else? There were, those were the big ones.
And so so your take, what could they have improved on? What could have, I know it's the first year. We're not judging them whatsoever, right? But constructively, if there was one part of the event that you think could have been better or something they didn't do, what would it be?
I think live music would have been great, just to add to a little bit more flavor and things to give you a little bit of a break from walking around the hot tarmac all day. And the event was long too. It was basically every day. It was like 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. because the drag racing was good. The drag racing was going well into the night. So there was just, if you wanted to see everything, you would have to stay a long time. But, you know, really, for the first time, like they did a really great job of using the space. There was a drifting demonstration kind of at the other end of the parking lot. So there was constantly stuff to see. There was constantly noise coming from somewhere. They had a dyno demonstration as well.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's just overload. It's just a big Texas fairground with like, you know, big barbecue stands and tire smoke everywhere and super loud RBs banging off the red limiter.
Testosterone just peaking over there, I'm sure. Like, I'm sure it's just, yeah, like, I mean, a lot of guys living out the dream in that instance. You know, you participated in other people's dreams that day.
Pretty much, yeah. They even had a kangaroo at the welcome gates.
Oh. Yeah, that's definitely Texas or Australia.
Yeah, like you leave it up to the Aussies to bring a friggin' kangaroo, dude. Wow, that's cool.
The rare Texas species of kangaroo.
But it was.
I think I think it was like from a petting zoo or whatever.
Oh, okay. I'm like, damn, they got him down there? No way.
Yeah, dude, they wear a 10-gallon hat, big old belt buckle, drives a truck.
They brought him on the plane. He had a first class ticket.
That's sweet.
So no, I do think they did a good job of like making sure there were things for everyone to be able to do, whether you're into drag racing or drifting or you just want to come and have a good time. There was a nice variety of things, but I think just continuing to expand like the different types of activities that people can do, I think that will go a long way to increasing the crowd size.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like they had it pretty well thought out. And when you've been doing it for 10 years in one country, you know, I'm not going to say rinse and repeat, but definitely take a lot of that and then figure out what Americans bring for flavor to kind of make it for America. So, you know, you're a dad, right?
I am.
And I'm a dad. And so my question, dad to dad, is, could you have brought your kid to this event?
She is not a big fan of racetracks because of the super loud noises.
Yeah.
So, but I think the kangaroo would have gotten her there.
That would have been the bait, no doubt.
That would have helped for sure. So, yeah, I don't think I'd fly her in from California specifically for this just yet. But, you know, if I lived in the area or was thinking about bringing my kid, like, yeah, there's fun stuff. And it was actually was really encouraged by the number of women that were drag racing their cars.
That's cool.
That was pretty cool. And so I bought my daughter some merch from some of the tables. Nice. She was really excited. She was really excited when I came home with that. So, you know, if you've got daughters and girls in your life, there's a lot of role models for them to look up to at that event as well.
Yeah, and I think the more you support them, like you did with the merch, or you know, whatever, liking their posts of them drag racing, whatever it is, you're helping just further that, right? And then, you know, by the time our kids are, you know, at the age to do that, it's really become an accepted thing, and really starts to even out on the numbers, right? Yeah, I figured for the dads out there, we'd just let them know, like, it's cool to bring your kid. Just bring some of the ear covers or whatever if you're by the track. That's definitely helps.
Yeah, I think it was nice too. A lot of the vendors or race teams just brought up their own barbecues and tents, and some of them were showing the Tyson Jake Paul fight like at their tents. So a lot of them were making it more of a like camp out, cookout style thing, which I thought was really cool. And I think next year there'll probably be a lot more of that too.
And so, was there camping at the event?
I don't think you could camp there, and I didn't see many RVs, so I don't think so. But people definitely stayed really late into the night fixing cars. That was the other thing, is a lot of cars were breaking, like with regularity.
Oh yeah, I bet there was a lot of NOS out there, huh?
These are pretty old cars, and they're being pushed to their limit on a track that the organizers that work this track do drag racing. I mean, I don't know, maybe every week of the year, and they were taking particular delight, like visible delight, in making the track so sticky that the cars were being pushed beyond their limits.
Wow.
So obviously you can get really fast times with a sticky track, but it's also like really putting a lot of stress,
of course,
on the cars. So it was pretty amazing. Like one by one, like everybody was breaking something, but what they would typically do is limp it back to their garage where their buddies were waiting, and they'd work on it all night, and then they do it all again the next day. So it was cool because everyone was just like not being super precious with them. They were just there to have as much fun as possible, and if they could hustle and get it back out on the track, they were going to try to do that. And I saw that happen many times. It wasn't just one group.
Was there any American versus Aussie competition that you noticed? Like, did any of that rivalry type thing get stirred up?
There was definitely. It didn't really resort to trash talking, but there was definitely tension. Like, everybody definitely wanted to show their stuff, but everyone was acknowledging that like everybody's stuff is cool and everybody's build is cool, but there was definitely like the nature of drag racing is like the slow build up, and then like boom, like the spotlight's on you for 8 seconds and that's it. And there was definitely tension when you thought a car had the potential to set a fast time and was rolling up to the start line. Like everyone definitely got quiet and had their eyes locked on the track. So yeah, there was a lot at stake.
That's cool.
And they handed out, I don't know if you saw this, but the awards they handed out were like really big, like wrestling belt buckles, or like championship rings that were like, the size of a walnut. So
cool. That's
there was some cool stuff at stake too.
It's sweet that they came correct. I like that they didn't try to cheap out because they were nervous, that type of thing. There's a lot of different decisions that you can make as like a business owner when it comes to, of course, starting something in a new country. Speaking of, though, okay, so Australia, for 10 years, we'll say they've been doing this. They got a year in the U.S. under their belt. Aaron and I were talking, and we're like, I mean, they got to go to Japan, right? They got to go to Japan. That's like the third spot that would kind of create the trifecta. Do you think, by what you saw or heard or anything like that, that there is a possibility that they will create a GTR festival in Japan?
That's an interesting question. I think this was a big lift for them to throw this event in a foreign country, 5,000 miles away, or however far away it is. I think this was a lot for them to handle. Mm-hmm. Now they've already said we're coming back next year, so they've already said, this is not going to be a one-off. They want to make this a recurring thing, and I think that speaks to the seriousness of these Australian brands to like really set up permanent shop in America. As far as bringing that to Japan, I'm not sure. I can say I haven't heard any rumors or whispers or rumblings about that. And I was around these guys pretty much nonstop for 3 days. That doesn't mean they can't do it, but Japan has its own set of events. I forget the name of the 2 events that happen at Fuji Speedway every year.
Yeah, the Rs meeting and Nismo Festival. Yep.
Right. So those are huge events, and I know these same guys typically go to those events just to attend.
Yeah, so I've seen them there.
I don't know. Maybe there would be concern about stepping on toes or whatever, but I don't know that for sure. That's speculation. But I think for right now, there's a lot of potential to grow this Texas event. And get it, have it. I think it could quickly catch up to the level that it's currently at in Australia. And I imagine that's their focus right now. That seems to be what they were trying to get across. But who knows? A few years down the line, maybe we'll see one in Japan.
Yeah, and I mean, we still got, like there's still multi years of 34 that are not eligible yet. So we haven't even seen, we really only got 99s right now, and we're about to have 2000s. They discontinued this car in 2002. So we still have literally like 2/3 of the 34s that still need to come over, mine included. So I think you're right. They can definitely grow this way bigger. The amount of 34s that'll just land in Texas alone over the next 3 years would probably blow our minds. So I think you're right, and I think we've held events, and on a small scale, and it was stressful, and everyone had to be doing their job, right?
Oh yeah.
Like it's a thing, right? And so I can see exactly what you're saying. You come to this new country 5,000 miles away. You're bringing some of your people. You're taking volunteers you've never met before. You're just like trying to make it happen. I could see what you're saying with if they overextend themselves and just like try to do Japan, step on some toes, get a bad name, it's a flop. Who knows? Where they could have just focused on Australia and the U.S. and really probably 10x'd that brand by the time they're done with it.
I think there's a lot of potential still untapped here, and I think they are obviously very astute on the business side, and I think they'll continue to try to grow their business here. But I mean, the other reason this was successful is because it was literally the week after SEMA.
Yeah,
and so a lot of brands were able to justify the cost of coming to the U.S. by saying, well, we'll do both events. So there were a ton of cars from Australia or Japan that came to do both. And so I think they really benefited from that at the GTR Festival. Like, they got some really cool heavy hitter cars to come out. If it wasn't right on the heels of SEMA, I don't know if they make the trip. So if they keep it that format, maybe that's an extra incentive for people to be involved.
Well, yeah, I mean, even from the East Coast, right? Like, guys like us, if we could have attended SEMA, we're all the way over in Maine. Like, we're far from Texas. So if we could have attended SEMA, seen a few sites and then hopped down to Texas Motorplex, that would have been like a sick 2 weeks.
Yeah, that would have been totally sick. But that's like typical car guy math, right? You got to hit 2 events because it's cheaper.
Yeah, it's cheaper. yeah. For sure, man. So closing thoughts on the first GTR festival in the United States.
Yeah, look, they said the 3-day attendance was around 7,500 people. They have space for more. I think, next year we could potentially see a much larger number. There will be a lot more cars in the country by then, and more and more fans of this chassis all the time. And I think the sky is the limit for them, as well as for Australian brands coming into the U.S. And we still have not seen anywhere near the peak of GTR fever in the U.S.
Damn, that's cool firsthand. Man, we appreciate you coming on, just chopping it up with us. Of course, giving us some of the post FOMO.
Yeah.
We're over here. We're gonna go cry after this because we missed probably the best event of the year, but that's okay, man. We got you here helping us out. I'm sure the listeners appreciate your perspective. Let us know one more time, like, where do we find you, man? Like, I know where to find you, but where do they find you?
You can find me personally on Instagram. It's Zoomy575M. But my main thing is CarraraBooks.com. That's where we publish books on cars, and we've got a couple of new releases out for the holidays. If you're looking for some gifts for the car nerds in your life, coffee table books, nonfiction journalism, and we just put out a trilogy of fiction that are like automotive spy thrillers too. So a little something for everybody. Carrara Books, check it out.
Carrara books, hell yeah, and that's cool. Put that on your Christmas list. I know we're gonna have our Christmas episode coming up, and there better be one of these damn books on the list.
Oh yeah,
hell yeah, awesome, man. We appreciate it once again, and enjoy the evening, man.
Appreciate it, boys. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, absolutely.
You too. Yeah, all that did was just give me FOMO, like even more.
Yeah, man, me too. And like, it's kind of weird. Like in my head, when I heard GTR Festival in Texas, I thought back to Texas 2K, and it's all R35s, it's all trumpets blaring, and that's immediately where my mind goes when it's like GTRs in Texas.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, looking at the videos and everything, it's like, oh wow. That's not what this is at all.
Not at all.
This is something completely different from that. Yeah, Skylines for sure.
Yeah, because when I had originally told you about it, you didn't seem too impressed.
Yeah, I'm like drag racing.
Yeah, I know. That's what you say. Yeah, it's not really my thing. I'm like, yeah, no, I like more there for the cars, but it makes sense. You were thinking it was going to be a bunch of big bodies.
That's just where my head straight goes.
Yeah, of course. I mean, because it's the United States.
Right, and it's Texas, and that's where they have
all of that.
All that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, he obviously, this is brief. We just want to give a little overview of it. He obviously didn't get to list out all the cars and all the people that were there. You've got social media. You've seen it. But we do appreciate him coming on.
Oh, absolutely.
And
that was cool to hear.
Yeah, we would love to be there next year. Like we said, if you can wrap that in with SEMA and you can attend both and we can give you guys episodes live from both, like, yeah, that's worth it.
That's cool.
Because we're not delayed. At this point, we're a little ways out. You guys have been getting this smashed down your throats for like 10 days now. So, but we're still glad to do it. Appreciate Ryan. Make sure you support him. He's a good dude and he puts out good quality books.
Oh yeah.
If you didn't get the Cult of GTR, sucks for you. But it sounds like he's got a few other books coming right out.
Yeah, sounds good.
Awesome. All right, here we are for the GTR Festival in episode 108. I'm Bobby. This is Aaron.
See ya.
Peace.